Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Do you know that feeling? That feeling you get when your favorite pet fan theory turns out to be true? Isn't that a great feeling? Well, buckle up, fellow fans. We are about to take a tour down I Told You So Lane and I Got It Wrong Boulevard. I have been patiently waiting for this video until all of the other videos were done. I have a new favorite episode, and this is it. All the little character hints I've been seeing in Mitch's relationships paid off in spades in this episode. So let's jump right in. Double extra super spoiler warning beforehand because I am tickled pink and I can't help oversharing details. This episode is like those magic pictures that change as you look at it a second and third time. When you watch it from Me-K.O and Five's perspective, Mitch is being an arrogant griefer who is selfishly hogging all the fun and greedily hogging up all the XP. He is glaringly in the wrong, and any questionable action on Me-K.O and Five's parts are acceptable because of how many rules Mitch is breaking. Mitch is constantly calling out their immaturity when he is really on the same level of them, if not way more immature. Then, when you go back and watch it from Mitch's perspective, he is out there every day working his fingers to the bone to provide for his family all on his own, and when he takes a little time to relax and socialize, these freakish kids pop up and abuse him. And when they become texts, these little blueberries treat his struggles with mocking or ignorance. When Mitch has a family emergency, they keep getting in his way, interfering with him. These are children who have never had to worry about a single responsibility in their lives, while Mitch has been out there taking care of his siblings for years. He has to provide for 4 people. His high XP score, the long hours and hard work he puts in aren't for fun. He'd love to laze back just for once and be a child like them, but he has responsibilities that he has to face all on his own. Me-K.O and Five each have at least 2 loving adults watching out for them and looking after their needs, whereas Mitch is an adult who needs to look out for other people's needs. Me-K.O and Five want XP just for bragging rights and luxuries to add to their already provided for lifestyles. Mitch needs XP for necessities, and he has not only all his own basic needs to supply, but a family to provide for. This puts so many scenes in different lights from the very first episode. For instance, in the opening episode, Mitch was taking that pasta home to enjoy some rare peaceful downtime with his family. Five and Me-K.O stole that from him, which makes his attitude make far more sense. In Collection Quest episode, Mitch buys 4 sets of shoes. He isn't buying those extra shoes to sell for extra money. They were gifts for his brothers and sisters, something that they could share as a family. And image is super important to streamers, especially professional streamers, and as the Furious 4 feet would be on screen during their kicks a lot, it makes sense they would be wearing matching and branded shoes. Fives wasn't asking for a simple transaction when he asked Mitch for those shoes, and Mitch was 100% justified in refusing him, something Five would have understood if Mitch had trusted him with the secret of his family. But Mitch had not known Five enough to trust him yet, so Mitch simply deflects the request by setting the price too high for Five to consider. Then, when the new shoes come out, Mitch looks not eager, but genuinely distressed. He had just spent close to $1,000 purchasing the previous shoes that are now being actively used by his family, so he can't get a refund for them. He will now have to spend that much more. A gamer has to have up-to-date gear, and Mitch seems to be the provider of gear for his family. On first watching that shoe scene, it gives the impression that Mitch is raking in the cash and rolling in money, that he makes these purchases just for added luxury and prestige. The advent of the new shoes just meant that he had to arrange some more buying and selling. No, it's no stress to him. This added context puts the scene in the light of a single parent suddenly hit with a surprise expense that is going to further deplete his very strained resources. Then, in this episode itself, this 9th episode of Season 2, there's the issue of Mitch taking over the leaderboard and how he interacted with his phone. These beautiful little moments that the creators put there that just show completely different at the beginning and end of the episodes. At the beginning of this episode, Mitch is hogging all the XP and flaunting it on social media. At the end of the episodes, you see he is out there grinding while all the other techs were goofing off waiting for a job to come to them. And if you look at the screen of his phone when all the hearts are coming from, you will see that it is a messenger app and not a social media site, a subtle but telling difference. Mitch was sending and receiving those hearts from someone he knows and is far and loves. And as far as we know, that means either his fellow tech or his family, and the hearts mean it had to be from the fam. That changes the scene so much. After a hard day of providing for his family, Mitch is justifiably proud and is talking with his siblings. Maybe he's praising them on the game they're currently playing. Maybe he's just sending a "love you, be home soon" text, but this is a sweet and intimate moment for Mitch. Then there is the way that Mitch keeps getting more irritated at 5. Now, looking at it while you're watching the show, Mitch's ratcheting irritation seems completely irrational. But looking at it after you've seen the entire episode, 5 kept calling Mitch brother in 2 different languages, no less, casually demanding an intimacy that Mitch had not yet granted him permission to. Looking back, you can hear Mitch's desperate mind screaming, "I am not your brother. Stop calling me that." However, that was something Mitch couldn't say out loud because it would raise too many questions in a gamer culture where calling each other bro or hermano is common. Everything looks so different from Mitch's perspective. From Mitch's perspective, all of his unfair behavior is not only justified but natural. Now remember, I'm not saying that his behavior was justified. I'm just saying that from Mitch's perspective, it looked justified. Because it is not coming from pride or arrogance, it is coming from love. Specifically, it is coming from the type of love called storge, the love that should exist between family and close acquaintances. Perhaps this is the most natural of love. This storge love doesn't just exist between humans, but between animals and humans, and not just animals and humans, but animals and animals as well. It is the affection you see in those videos of cats kneading on the mass of sleepy dogs. It is something beautiful and kind. It is the mother love that causes a new mother to smile at her child, even when it is howling at impotent fury for the 3rd night in a row. It is the father love that causes a poverty-hardened working man to soften to putty at the touch of his daughter's hand. However, storge is also being a natural love. It has 2 sides, one of which is divinely good, and one of which is cruelly, animalistically dangerous. It is the love that will drive a mother to nearly any injustice to promote the needs of her own children over those of other children. It is the same selfish love that drives a father to cheat and lie to get his daughter into the best university, when she's really only qualified for the second best. It is the love that makes a lioness just outright murder whatever she needs to make sure that her own cubs stay fat and healthy. This 2-sided natural love called storge explains several of the seemingly incongruous aspects of Mitch's behavior. He is a caregiver, provider. It makes sense that he is always teaching and guiding Me-K.O because that is second nature to him by this point. Taking care of those more inexperienced than him is just a habit. He nearly always has 5's and Me-K.O's back. It wasn't coincidence that he happened to be the one with the tech closest to them when Me-K.O needed help during the ping incident. Mitch was always out there watching over them. And you see, I had been wondering about that right up to this episode. I saw Mitch's behavior as a strange 2-sided coin that might flip either way. On the one hand, he was arrogant and prideful and a chronic thief. On the other hand, he was always there offering practical aid to 5 and Me-K.O, saving them, giving good advice, and usually being aggressively, aggravatingly right. I was genuinely torn over Mitch's motivations. Was he just in it for the XP and his own pride, or did Mitch know that the blueberries needed him and go out of his way to protect and guide them? In a brilliant display of storytelling that gives volumes of insight into Mitch's character, the show gives us 5 words that answer the question in this episode. Mitch sounds nearly emotionally broken as he confesses that 5 and Me-K.O don't need him anymore. Not like they did at first. Me-K.O needed Mitch's discipline, and 5 needed Mitch's confidence, and Mitch provided that for them both freely. Over the last 2 seasons, Mitch has been trying his level best to be the best teammate he can be to these 2 blueberries. He is a bit rubbish at the emotional aspect of it, and his teaching methods were the harsh and curt behaviors of someone who was forced to mature far too fast. But Mitch Williams has the practical self-sacrifice aspect of storge love down, and he gave that to them freely. And that confession that 5 and Me-K.O didn't need Mitch anymore says something else about Mitch. It says that Mitch needs to be needed, that there is something in him that demands that he live for something more than just his own selfish needs. Again, this is the love the Greeks called storge. Mitch needs to feel connected to someone. When he moved out of his childhood house and set out on his own, it uncentered Mitch terribly. He was no longer one of the core of the Furious Four. He needed to find someone else who needed him to take care of them. And this didn't just come out of nowhere in this episode. It's not something that was sprung. Now, you hear this phrase a lot in shows about any sort of relationship, be it a relationship between a father-daughter pair, being it a relationship between lovers. They didn't earn that moment. That's because if the show tries to spring a deeply emotional connection moment on someone too fast without preparing it throughout the show or episode, it feels like it wasn't earned. Well, this scene is earned. It's earned with spades through the actions of Five, Me-K.O, and Mitch. Whew. Mitch seemed not offended, but genuinely hurt when Five said they didn't need him in the Buds episode. And I could give you 100 other examples, but this video is already getting long. But there is still Mitch's blatant theft and selfish behavior. But remember, Storge has two sides. It is a very natural love. But it is love, so it has elements of both the animalistic and the divine, the selfless dedication to another and the selfish dedication to that other. As much as Mitch wants to take care of his teammates, of his family, his first Storge, his first love comes first. He must provide for his family. He sees a threat looming over them that he feels, rightly or wrongly, that it is his duty to stave off. And this threat is so real that even the generally self-absorbed Me-K.O sees it as such a horrible fate that it immediately inspires real empathy in her when she confronts it. Empathy for comparative strangers. And this threat has been hanging over Mitch's heads and the head of his family for years, threatening to take everything from his family. In Mitch's mind, this justifies all of his actions. It justifies scalping glitches from the other techs. It justifies stealing that pasta in episode 1. But now the big question. Mitch might have stolen that pasta simply because he was broke. Despite working himself to the bone at work, he has massive expensive. However, this doesn't really explain why he kept his family such a huge secret from the rest of the techs, or why he goes to such extreme lengths to keep his real job a huge secret from his family. It's pretty obvious that Phil at least knows about Mitch's family. It's equally obvious that no one else at the Bailey Hinobi store did. So, what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Why is Mitch Williams so dead set against letting the two halves of his life touch each other? Leave a like and a comment below on your theories. Hit that subscribe button to check out the link below for my own book about a large and strange family. Peace out, my wonderful viewers.